Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best 5 brawlers for every single game mode in Brawl Stars right now. So this is going to help you in trophy pushing. It's going to help your understanding of the meta, whether you're playing ranked as well. So let's just dive straight into it then. So to begin with, we're going to be taking a look at Heist, and the best brawler absolutely is Melody. So the hypercharge completely broke her, but she was already good without the hypercharge. She can just easily dash up to the safe with a shield gadget. Her notes deal so much damage to the safe, and then of course if you use the hypercharge as well on this high safe, it's literally game over. She's broken. Next up we have Colette. So of course Colette's really good in Heist because one super deals around 12%, whilst the hypercharge super does about 25% damage to the safe. So of course that's absolutely insane, and it's just so easy to get pressure with Colette in Heist. Colt is next, and of course Colt is really good because of his high DPS. He's got a quick reload speed, good range, and a lot of damage per bullet, so he can easily just get onto the high safe. You just leave Colt alone once and he's going to deal like 30% easily. Chuck is easily on this list as one, especially since the last update. He's actually able to keep his super progress when he dies. So essentially now you can zoom straight up the map onto the high safe, making Chuck even better. And lastly, for the Heist meta, we have Angelo. So the reason being is because of the map pool. You've got Kaboom Canyon, Safe Zone, and Bridge Too Far. All of his maps, he's able to freely just go around the map, easily pinch, easily get control back, and defend with ease. So now moving on to Bounty / Wipeout. Start off with Piper. So of course Piper is really good because you got multiple long range maps for Wipeout, and of course you got Shooting Star. She's really good because all you need for a lot of the sharpshooters is just one tap and then a gadget with homemade recipe, and you can kill them easily. So Piper is still one of the best. Next up in the Bounty meta, we have Gene. So the reason why Gene is so good is not because of his slaying power, it's just because he can easily force the opponents back just by chipping them down, and then eventually he's going to get his super, and his super is just so easy to hit on so many of these maps. So next up we have Gus. So the reason why Gus is so good is because Cookie Popper is so good against a lot of the meta brawlers in Bounty. He can easily 2-tap them and then gadget them with his Cookie Popper and kill them with ease. And again, he's got a lot of HP. He can get so much pressure down multiple lanes. Gus is so good in Bounty now. Next up we have Mandy. So of course Mandy's in this because still she's one of the best brawlers when it comes down to those longer range maps. She outranges pretty much everyone in the game, and her super can one-shot so many of the snipers, so she's easily in this meta. And lastly, in the Bounty / Wipeout meta, of course we got Nanny as well. The reason being is because Nanny counters the other snipers. Even though Nanny's usage rate is dropping down a little bit, still the super can confirm some good kills. Return to Sender counters too many of the snipers on this game mode, so you just gotta play Nanny. So now moving on to the Hot Zone meta, starting off with Lou. So Lou is definitely back in the meta, and he's finally good in Hot Zone again because of the reload speed buff. It's enabled him to get so much pressure. His super can of course cover the entire zone, and then you've got the broken hypercharge on top of that, a really strong gadget to confirm it freezes, and of course just one super gives you complete control. Next up on the Hot Zone list, we have Draco. So this might be a little bit of a surprise, but I've been noticing he's getting a lot better in this meta now. A lot of the big damage dealers got nerfed, hence making Draco better, and he's paired really well with Poco, Byron, etc. He can get so much pressure on the zone. Next up we have Penny. So of course Penny is just really good in every game mode, but in Hot Zone in particular, because that turret's really going to help you zone the opponents out. There's so many maps in Hot Zone where the Penny turret's just in such a great position, and the hypercharge as well really going to help her out. And of course in Hot Zone people are going to feed you 24/7 because they've got to get on that zone, so for that reason Penny is so good. Next up we have Larry. So of course Larry's really good in Hot Zone because again there's so many maps with a lot of walls, so he can just easily sit behind and just get a lot of value. And then of course you got the fact that with the star power he's able to get his ammo back through any type of assassin that wants to try and counter him, so he's just really good in so many Hot Zone maps. So next up we have Stu. So Stu of course is really good in Hot Zone. Reason being again is because enemies are just forced to go towards you, feeding Stu's super, feeding his hypercharges. His speed zone turret as well is really good in Hot Zone as well. He's good at everywhere. So now moving on to gem grab, starting off with Gus. So Gus is so good in this meta right now, but he's probably the best gem carrier. The reason being is because he does good damage, so even tanks don't really have that good of a job trying to counter him. His Cookie Popper can really help with the DPS and to confirm kills on enemy gem carriers, and of course he's got his super, so whether an assassin wants to get near him, he can easily knock them back and your teammates can help pinch them out. So Gus is just really good, and of course he has a good amount of HP as well, so he's the perfect mid. Next up we have Otis. So Otis is really good in his gem grab meta, mainly because a lot of the bushy maps he can just spam his fat splatter gadget paired with the vision gear, and he has ultimate control over so many lanes. Think of Undermine, Last Stop, Double Swoosh. He can easily gain control there. He can also sneak up and stun people really easily. You've got the hypercharge as well, which has recently been kind of fixed with the bug, making him even better. And the same goes for Sandy as well. Any bushy map, Sandy's going to get a lot of value because you've got the Root Sand star power, which is really going to help scout the bushes, but it's just so many places to wall peek with Sandy and gem grab. It's just so easy just to farm farm supers. Next up on the list, we have Max. So, of course, Max is just good everywhere, but in particular in the gem grab meta right now, because Max can kind of do everything, and Max can enable all of these other lane brawlers that pair really well with Max. For example, Sandy to do even better, but Max is just really good at surviving. So, as a gem carrier, of course, your goal is not to die, and Max has got so much survivability with the gadget, super, etc. And lastly on the list, we have Byron. So, this one is mainly because it kind of covers the rest of the map pool. There's a few maps in a rotation where you can play Byron not only as a mid, you can also play him as a lane as well. So of course he can be good support in there. So, you know, maps like Rustic Arcade, for example, Minecart Madness, he can be good as a lane. So now moving on to the 5 best brawlers for Brawl, starting off with Rico. So even though his gadget got nerfed again recently, he's still the king in Brawl because he can just do so much damage. He can get team wipes after team wipes, but of course his hypercharge is very good as well. There's so many good Rico maps in Brawl. So next up we have Kenji. So even after the reload speed nerf, he's still a menace in multiple game modes, but I like him in particular in Brawl because the meta kind of suits him right now. He's able to get a lot of pressure, and he's still really good with his star power, gadget, super combined. Still so many strong things about him. So next up, of course, we have Ash. So since his hypercharge came out, he's easily been an A-tier brawler in the meta, and he's in particular very strong in Brawl because there's so many bushy maps, and you always want a tank that can get some good pressure, and of course that is Ash. And when Ash is strong, he just dominates in Brawl. So next up on the list, we have Amber. So Amber's really good in Hot Zone as well, gem grab, but I really like her in Brawl because you can never really go wrong with her because you can always open up the map with her super and just destroy all the grass. And then of course you've got her gadget to defend herself, and again you can just never really go wrong with her in so many different maps. And lastly for Brawl, we have Surge. So again, Surge is really good in other game modes, but in particular Brawl because he can really shut down those pesky tanks which you're going to be facing off against on like center stage, for example, and other bushy maps. But he's just even good on the non-bushy maps because of his defensive capabilities. So now moving on to the best 5 brawlers for Knockout, starting off with RT. So RT is one of my favorite in Knockout because he has a lot of HP. So down his particular lane, he can still actually be really good into other enemy snipers because it takes so long for them to kill him. But not only that, of course, he's really safe against those late picks like Kit, Daryl, etc. So he's kind of a do-it-all brawler in Knockout. Daryl is next up, and he's particularly good in Knockout. If you're playing in ranked, he's good at the end of draft, but he's just good late game as well because you can just wait, build up your super, and then your super just, well, your 2 supers counter so many of the snipers, throwers, etc. And once the gas closes in, there's nothing that the opponents can do, and you can even pair it with Kit. So next up we have Tick. So Tick is just really annoying in Knockout, mainly because he can just easily force the opponents into an uncomfortable position. There's so many maps where throwers are just so dominant on, and Tick of course is the king of all throwers. So next up we have Kit. So Kit is really good in Knockout because you can pair Kit with any sort of tank, and you can just easily farm with them because there's nothing the opponents can do if you've got a cheeseburger gadget as well. And lastly for the Knockout meta, we have Gray. So Gray is really good in like Hot Zone as well, but the reason why he's so good in Knockout is because there's so many maps where he can just press up so easily. If you've got fake injury star power as well, you can tank those snipers, those heavy hitting shots, and then you can easily just gadget, tap maybe 1 time or 2 times to confirm kills onto throwers and snipers, and of course his super can quickly kill snipers as well. So he's really good in Knockout. So now moving on to the 5v5 meta, starting off with Fang. So of course Fang is still really good in 5v5, and the only place he's really good in because he can easily just team wipe. There's just no skill in it. He could just fly from brawler to brawler to brawler, eventually get his hypercharge, team wipe. Yep, you don't even need to think. So next up we have Maisie. So Maisie's really good in 5v5 because you have a lot of pop-off potential with Maisie. Her super can easily chain off multiple people. You can get multiple hypercharges, and especially in Brawl, she's the ultimate defender. Next up we have Mandy. So in particular, I'm not too sure what the rotation is for 5v5, but I'm sure Wipeout is actually in 5v5. But yeah, Mandy's so good in 5v5, Wipeout, any type of knockout. Also Brawl as well because her super can easily clip multiple people. And of course, you just need to hit 2 people to then charge your super again. You can get so many team wipes. So next up we have Belle. So Belle is good in every single game mode in 5 versus 5. But in particular, Brawl. The reason why Belle is so good is because, of course, there's so many people grouping up in Brawl. So her main attack literally just bounces, causes pressure. You're able to cycle through to your hypercharges so quickly. Belle is so underrated. And lastly, for the best brawlers in 5v5, I went with Mortis. So I absolutely love Mortis in 5v5 because, of course, you got the mythic gear on top of his super that's able to chain through people so quickly. You can get so many hypercharges and just team wipe with ease. Mortis is so broken, especially in Brawl. So now moving on to duels, starting off with Shelly. So Shelly's really good in duels because, of course, you've got the Band-Aid star power. you've got Clay Pigeon, and it's the fact there's some pesky assassins, which Shelly can, of course, shut them down so easily. In a 1v1, there's not a lot of brawlers that can really beat Shelly. So next on the list, we have Mo. So even since the nerfs, I think Mo is really good in duels because he's got some decent range about him, but his super in particular is so unfair. You can beat throwers, you can beat so many brawlers in that 1v1, and of course, if assassins want to get close to him as well, you've got the knockback and just really good DPS. Next up in the duels meta, we of course got RT. So RT in particular was really good at countering those assassins, especially since he got that rework to his gadget. He just literally destroys brawlers like Edgar, Kit, Mortis, which you typically see a lot in duels. For example, Lily as well. You just can't defeat him in a 1v1. So next up for duels, we have Kit. So Kit is still really good, even though there's always a clear counter in one of the 3 brawlers. It's kind of just your luck whether you get a good matchup. But if Kit, for example, just gets one of the throwers or just a really low DPS brawler, then Kit's going to get a free win. And lastly on the list, we have Lily. So Lily's really good in duels because, of course, you've got the Vanish gadget that can really just confuse the opponents. They don't even know where you are, especially if it's a bushy map. That can be really annoying. But Lily in a 1v1 is just a demon. As long as they haven't got super, which they probably wouldn't have built up if you're playing Lily first hand, you can easily win that 1v1. And finally, moving on to Showdown. So starting off with Surge. So Surge has always been one of my favorite brawlers for Showdown. Whenever I got a quest, I always go Surge because it's just so free. As long as you focus on getting your first level, then it's just going to be a free game for you. You've got 2 really good gadgets. He has so much damage in that 1v1. Of course, that super can protect you against assassins as well. Again, even when Surge was really bad, he was probably the best Showdown brawler still. So next up on the list, we have Maisie. So Maisie is really good in Showdown because, of course, she deals so much damage. And there's also quite a lot of assassins in Showdown. So, of course, she can shut them down as well. She's got decent range as well, so she can always be good in 1v1, but it's just down to you whether you hit your shots or not. So next on the list, I've got Cordelia. So Cordelius is so good in Showdown because you've just able to manipulate the matchup however you want. Nobody can use your super against you because you'll always have your super to cancel them out. You've got a jump gadget, you'll eventually get your hypercharge for free as well. There's just so many good things about Cordelius in Showdown, and he's forever been in the meta. Next up, we have Buzz. So Buzz is returning to the Showdown meta because it's just so easy to get your super through, I don't know, you don't even have to team. You just got to sit back and be defensive and you'll easily get your super. And of course, that stun in 1v1 is so good. And lastly, for the Showdown list, we have Shelly. So just like Jules, Shelly is just so good in this particular matchup because you've got Band-Aid, you've got Clay Pigeons, and if you manage to sneak up to someone, they're pretty much dead if you've got your super. So yeah, I just love Shelly for that reason. And Shelly will always be good in Showdown. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know whether I missed out on anything in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.